Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Ramirez, and I am with the Social Enterprise Greenhouse team. So thanks, everyone, for being here this afternoon. And before we get started and dive into why we're all here today, which, of course, is to learn from Tom Ahern, I wanted to take the opportunity to encourage you all to get involved with other programs and services that Social Enterprise Greenhouse offers. So for those of you who are not familiar with Social Enterprise Greenhouse, we're a network of business and community leaders who are committed to advancing social enterprise. And so we help social entrepreneurs all the way from, someone who has an idea to launch a venture to helping to fund the ventures. And I am sort of assuming that many of you on the line might be social entrepreneurs yourselves or working for a social enterprise, and we really exist to support your great work. So please be in touch with us regarding ways that we can help you continue to grow your impacts. I also am sure that many of you on the line have some expertise that really could support the social entrepreneurs in our network. And we are very dependent on our network of mentors. So if you're interested in getting involved that way, that would be absolutely fabulous. So please contact me or any of our team members that you've been in touch with to get more involved with us. So, all right, now to why we are all here today. Tom Ahern is a leading global expert on donor communications. We are thrilled that he has agreed to share his expertise with us today. I'm not going to read through his bio. Take a glance at it. He's an impressive guy. And I also want to say that Tom was actually the inspiration behind the launch of the Greenhouse webinar series. So I had asked Tom to speak at our SEED conference, which is a national social enterprise conference we organize at Brown. Save the date, April 24th, 25th, 2015, by the way. And Tom, unfortunately, was not available last year for the dates of the SEED conference, but said, hey, I'd be willing to sort of do a webinar and share some of my ideas through the webinar. And that got our team thinking about, wow, what a great idea to actually have a webinar series where we could continue the community building and best practice sharing that happens 2 days each year at SEED. So stay tuned for more information about future webinars. So thank you, Tom. Really appreciate the inspiration and your willingness to share your expertise. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tom Ahern.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? This is, thank you very much, Kelly. I'm going to show my screen, and there it is in small type. And just if you could let me know somehow that you are hearing me okay, that would be great. We're still kind of feeling our way through GoToWebinar. It is a wonderful system, but like anything, yeah,
We are here.
drive it. Okay, so, and it's loud and clear. We are going forward then. You're looking at the title slide, and that's, okay, and the title slide is not moving, so here we go. First problem, can you guys give me, or let me advance, or I'm going to escape. Let me try that again, guys. I don't know why that didn't work. Okay, now we're going. The title publicized for this was, as you see on the screen, Loverizing. It was a slight misspelling in the promo, but the Loverizing is this concept that actually was invented by a psychologist in London, and the idea here is that no, you really have to love your donors if you want to maximize your fundraising. Now, if somebody asked me to define social enterprise, I suppose I could fumble my way through that. I am assuming that the people that would bother to take this particular webinar are those who are considering looking for charitable donations. That is, you're a 501c3 or something like that, and you are going to raise money where people could, for instance, take it off their tax return because it's perceived by the tax authorities as a bit of charity. So that's what we're talking about today. And the first thing I would recommend highly is, in fact, you can just go and buy this book and ignore the rest of this presentation if you want. Presenting to Win is a unique book. It's not from inside the nonprofit world, for one thing, which is a strength, trust me. And what it is Jerry WEISSMAN is, the background of this guy, he was a screenwriter and successful. His college roommate, as it happened, turned into one of Silicon Valley's biggest venture capitalists. And this venture capitalist endured presentation after presentation, mostly IPOs, and in front of tough crowds, Wall Street investors, and came away saying, my God, these people are so boring. These presentations are horrible, and it's almost a surprise anybody gives us money. So he called his college buddy, and he said, Jerry, I know you know how to tell a story because you do it for Hollywood. Can you come up to Silicon Valley and instruct us in how to better present so that we make connections faster and we get the support that we're going for? And that's what this book is all about. And if you read it, you will be a far more successful fundraiser, money raiser, etc. So there's my recommendation for reading, and that'll be, now let's move on. So there's a difference. I mean, if you're going for government grants, that's a pretty rational process. If you're going for foundation money, that's a fairly rational process, although if it's a private foundation, there are definitely individuals involved who have a personal stake in it and therefore have an emotional connection to what they give to. And then finally there's the typical individual donor, all of whom are outsiders to your organization, do not understand your lingo, may give to you, but are generalists and need to be spoken to that way. You build successful donor communications or any promotional communications, persuasion communications backwards from your target audience. When I get started in this, I came out of hard marketing, which is a much better foundation for learning how to sell than fundraising, generally speaking. And though when I came into fundraising, I realized even so, and I thought I had good training, there was so much I assumed that was absolutely backwards. One of the things you may assume, because I certainly did, I thought by now, given the heavy presence of the Internet in everyone's daily life, including people who are not digital natives, that we would be seeing a ton more revenue coming in through online giving, and in fact, it's still a very small percentage of the whole, the number one way you raise money for charity generally in a kind of retail sense in America is still through direct mail, for instance. And then there's the whole major giving dimension where you are doing face-to-face solicitations, one-on-one, and other things. So online giving, just so you know, is still a relatively small. So today, we're not going to be looking at that. But what we are going to be looking at is the psychology of donors, because we live in this golden age now where we have neuroscience on our side almost every day, revealing things about the nature of human decision-making. And that's what we're talking about, of course, somebody making a positive decision, a yes decision, to help you with your project. One of the first things you have to give up is your desire to please your 10th grade English teacher, because sales copy, which is what you'd be writing essentially, even though we'll call it fundraising, it just isn't, does not follow all those good grammar rules. Actually, the thing to understand, George Smith is one of the greatest, most successful fundraising copywriters ever. And he said basically all fundraising, when you're asking people to support your mission, that should all sound like conversation. It's just, you know, it should sound as if you are talking to them, not as if you're writing an essay or something like that. Here, you know, we all do this. We have our private language that we use. And if you're talking to, you know, like something like, let's say, the Rhode Island Foundation or any other community foundation, or you're talking to the Ford Foundation or something like that, you know, you can get away with this kind of language because on the other end is somebody, a program person who is paid to evaluate this and will put up with this stuff. But in the real world of trying to raise money from individuals, all this is dead language. You might as well be speaking Latin. You know, it's systemic and it's indigenous and it's diverse and all the rest of it to preserve the dignity. You know, it's just crap and does not get across. Doesn't do what you think it's going to do, because I cannot visualize these abstract nouns. You can, because you actually are on the front lines. You know, can a social worker envision what an at-risk kid is? Absolutely, because they've smelled an at-risk kid. They've gone into the homes of at-risk kids. They've been on the same streets as at-risk kids. But when you take that language out of the office and you bring it to a general public and you say things like at-risk kid, well, I don't have that personal, you know, sensory experience of those, so it becomes an abstraction. If I can't visualize what you're talking about, then I really cannot empathize with it, and I will probably not support it. This is not about rational decision-making. Your emotions drive your decisions, all of them, and so you have to connect with me emotionally. When you're going for money, there are only three things you have to do in the communications side. You ask me for my help, then you thank me for my help, and then you report to me what you did with my help. There is this thing we now know, though, from neuroscience, and that is that you can, at each of those contact points, at each step, you can flatter me, and I will like that. See, here's the neuroscience, and you can see I've got that MIT professor up there in the upper left, wherever we're talking science. We now know the human brain cannot distinguish between false flattery and true flattery. So all flattery is equally good. It leaves, as it says here, this lasting and positive impression of the flatterer. Now, I know we all grew up with people saying, you know, don't flatter people because it's something bad. I don't know what, but that's just, that's bunk. Actually, you should flatter me. It's a hugely important persuasion skill. So get with it. Fall in love with it. I did a long time ago. And it doesn't have to be complicated. It's just, you know, when you're in touch with people, you're looking at a little corner of a donor newsletter. So this goes out to the people who have given you money. It just says repeatedly 1,000 times, your support is essential to whatever the mission is. Know that these days we have a longer queue at the nonprofit donor window. I had the privilege, really, of speaking to Darren Walker, the relatively new president of the Ford Foundation this year. He agreed to speak to me about a capital campaign on background. I wasn't asking for money or anything. We just were discussing philanthropy in general, and he said, welcome to the new normal, which is this. We hear that phrase, new normal, a lot. But in the fundraising world, what that means is that there are there's far less government money in circulation or possible for bright ideas. And that's just because of the Great Recession and because tax revenues are still, you know, down and because we're running huge deficits. Government is getting out of things like social enterprise, which means that the other people standing on the field are these what are called high net worth individuals, or even ultra high net worth individuals. That's an acronym, UNHWI, and they are being approached by everybody. So while they might have had 100 people presenting proposals to them in a year in the past, now they have 200 or 300. And so that's the new normal. You're going to be in a queue, and what makes your project stand out. The other thing to know is that in American fundraising, we have a huge problem with retaining donors. They come in, they make a first-time gift, and then they do not make a second gift, which means that basically you spent $1 to raise $2. No, I'm sorry, get it backwards. You spent $2 to raise $1, and that's a losing proposition. Also, if you don't retain your donors, then you do not access what is known as their lifetime value, which is every gift from the first to the last. Now, the lifetime value of some donors for certain causes can be 50 years of giving. So it's not a small thing to get them to that, over the hump and making a second or third gift, which I think a third gift is what I would consider a retained donor. What we're going to be talking about today in general, because there's only so much you can pack into a short webinar, but I want to give you the most important things I know about so that you can think about them. And one of those things is donor centricity. I put the part of this statement in red here so you could see. Angel Aloma wrote me because he happened to sit in on a workshop like today back in 2007, just before the Great Recession, and he was skeptical, and then he went back to his office and he took back this phrase donor centricity, or this it's a description of a type of approach to talking to your customers, that is, / your donors. Donors are customers, by the way. I'm not talking about the people you're serving. I'm talking about the people who may invest in you. Those are your customers. He listened to me describe what donor centricity is, and he sort of mentally thought at that point, well, we're already doing this. We're already a very successful charity, and I don't think we're guilty of not being donor-centered. Yet, with an open mind, he went back and he looked at his stuff and said, aha, in fact, we are. So he wrote to me this year to say, look, thank you for just introducing me to what donor centricity actually is, because from that time, despite the Great Recession, Food for the Poor has grown significantly and is now a $1 billion a year U.S. charity that fights poverty overseas in 17 different countries. So, he's quite happy with the results that donor centricity have gotten him. All donor centricity is it's a synonym for making more money for your mission or your vision, since you're all entrepreneurs. And when you're telling your story to prospective donors, I'll give you this 4-part story formula that I learned from the magnificent Stephen Pidgeon, who's a very successful fundraising company over in the UK called Tangible. They base all of their appeals on this 4-part story. You have your vision, that's whatever you're doing as a social entrepreneur. You have the people served, which are the people who be helped by your vision and mission. Then you have an enemy, and you really need to personify that enemy. Turn it into something I can imagine, not an at-risk kid, which I cannot imagine unless I'm a social worker. Turn it into something I can really hate. And then finally, I put it in red, finally, you have the hero, and the hero is always the same person. The hero is your donor. Now, you're looking at my mother-in-law, Jane, and she, in fact, is dead center in the midst of what a typical U.S. donor looks like, and a typical, probably, Canadian donor, and possibly a typical UK donor. They're a lot older than you think. I went through Jane's checkbook with her, and just looking for things charities she had given to in the past year, and it turned out she had responded to 5 direct mail appeals for very different things. I asked TrueSense, which is one of the largest, is a very large direct mail fundraising house based in Pittsburgh, does national campaigning. What do you guys know about the age of donors? This is the pie chart they sent. So you got 46% are 65 and older. You got 22% are 55 to 64. Between those two slices of the pie, you have maybe roughly 2/3 of your donors, and that is the fact of life. And you look at the smallest slice of pie, the one that you don't want to be served if you're a hungry child, and that is people under 35. Now, it isn't that people under 35, of course, are non-philanthropic. They'd love to be philanthropic. They just have so much to spend money on that they haven't yet, they need to pay off their college loans. They need to get an apartment and then maybe a house, and then they need to buy work clothing, and they need to, there's so many things. And if you're going to build a family, then you're going to have expenses for 21 years. And what TrueSense has witnessed among the American donor base is that people start to get reliably philanthropic. That is, they are going to be what you'd call direct mail responsive to appeals. At about age 55, it takes a while for you to have surplus cash. When people give you money, social entrepreneurs, well, maybe some of your investors truly are quote-unquote investing, although it's hard to imagine how that works with a nonprofit. But a charitable gift to you is surplus money. So if I can afford to give you $10 without that hurting me, then I will give you $10. If I can afford to give you $10 million without that hurting me, then I will give you $10 million. But it's always surplus cash. So that's where charity comes from, and people don't have a ton of surplus cash until they're in their mid-50s. Let's look at why donors kind of fall out of love so quickly. What you're looking at here is at that time, homepage for Plan International, which is a major international charity, does work in, I don't know, like 90 countries, huge place, huge enterprise, but yet, like all of you, started quite small at one point in time. It was a tiny charity started by a handful of people in England to help with all the orphans that were being produced by the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s. And because we don't have shortage of wars or other kinds of social problems, they have just grown and grown and grown and grown. And they're a very effective charity. But you look at their homepage here, as I did, with analytical eyes, and I labeled every place where they were talking about how great the organization is. And I showed them that, and then I showed them this page, which has got an additional circle where I circled the single place where they directly addressed the donor, and even there it was in the context of plan. What is plan doing, and how can you help? Well, you know what? Here's the thing. In donor-centered marketing, you do not focus on yourself, you focus on the donor. That's the first thing that has to change. Here's the Pixar pitch. This is kind of fun because Pixar bases all its movies on the same, kind of 5-step story formula. And, Finding Nemo, there we go. There you go. There. And I think it works perfectly for speaking to prospective donors. Once upon a time. So we have this situation every day. This bad situation continues. But then one day a donor shows up, someone just like you. And because of that, we were able to blah, 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 until finally it blah, 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 bad problem all went away. Incidentally, you can see the source for this particular Pixar pitch is a book, very good book, called To Sell is Human, well worth also your time. This is what you're telling donors over and over. Planned Parenthood in a tough situation in Minnesota. In 2012, a lot of opposition politically, a lot of pressure politically, and they were able to do their mission, keep the doors open, thanks to you, the donor. Here's Emily's list, trying to get progressive women elected to national office. This is your victory, they tell their donors. Here's Dana-Farber. They're reporting to their donors what's happening with philanthropy. How is philanthropy helping with the cancer research project? And every newsletter has this over and over on the pages of their print newsletter. You see these little things like this bullet here in the corner of the photo that says something reinforcing positive to the donors. You make the stories in this newsletter possible. So the newsletter becomes framed by trying to please and bring joy to the donors. Corporate communications are a specific type of communications. They are a category, an official category. I have my accreditation in corporate communications. In fact, if you're a publicly traded company on Wall Street, you have a corporate communications department. And those are the people that turn out the press releases, and they're the people that turn out the annual reports. That's all done according to SEC rules. These people are engaged in one type of communications, and that's to tell the world, tell the target audience, how great the organization is, how great that publicly traded corporation is. And investors want to hear that. They want to know you are going to succeed because, of course, they're hoping to make money off the stock of that corporation. The characteristic pronoun, this is the giveaway, you know, the spore you should look for on the forest floor is the pronoun we. So here's a Mount Sinai ad. Now, if you think I'm picking on Mount Sinai, I want to hasten to say that is not the case. This is a great hospital doing fabulous work, and they deserve all our respect. But this is an ad for them. We turned a child who couldn't hear into a typical 2-year-old who doesn't listen. And when I put this up on the screen and I just let the audience read it, and there's a lot of parents in the audience, people start to chuckle and then they start to laugh out loud because everybody's had this experience if they have young kids, or any kids, I guess. But this is not how you raise money. The we turned a child. How about talking about how great you are? Donor communications are completely different in terms of what the focus is. Donor communications are about how great the donor is, and the pronoun of choice is the pronoun we. You. And so you can take that Mount Sinai ad, you can easily convert it into a donor-appropriate ad by putting the donor first and giving the donor the credit. Thanks to you and other generous donors like you, we were able to do this little miracle we're talking about. Adrian Sargent is the #1 researcher into philanthropic marketing worldwide. He's based outside of London, and he's written a bunch of just seminal books. And one of the first things he decided to research, because it's very important, customer loyalty is very important in marketing, and donors are our customers. So we're talking about donor loyalty as well, and it's the equivalent. It's no different than customer loyalty, donor loyalty. And Adrian was trying to find out what reasons do people have for sticking with you, sticking with a charity, because they don't very much. I mean, the retention rate is horrible. And he found, I think, 9 reasons. Anyway, you're looking at one of them. That you have somehow established a personal link with me. And that personal link comes down to some very tiny elements, like the word you. So if you send me an envelope that says annual report enclosed, trash. If you send the same thing and now it says your annual report enclosed, you will probably improve your opening rate by 10%. It's these little fine details that matter, because response rate is always a preoccupation. What you need to understand, because this is, again, 10th grade English was wrong, you is not just a pronoun. It is a profound emotional trigger that we have been responsive to since the days our ears first opened and one of our parents said, "Oh, you beautiful baby, you," and everybody else looks at you in the eyes and goes, you, and now, you know, those are the early years. That's when your brain is getting all wired up and all, you know, the connections are being made. You are responsive to the word you. Now, let's look at how that in application raises money, okay? So you're looking at 2 donor newsletters. This is for a children's hospital, and Gillette is a great children's hospital. And the old way that they talked to their donor base was through the donor newsletter you see on the left, and then the new way is the donor newsletter you see on the right. And as you can see, there's a little bit of difference in the personality of these. So on the left, I'm going to zoom in here. On the left, look at the headline. At Gillette, medical pioneers set the standards for spine care. In other words, look at how great the medicine is. Look at our terrific procedures. You know, observe our wonderfulness. And that is fine. And I'm making fun, but not of Gillette. They are an incredible place. Just of this way of talking, because it doesn't work with donors. You know, the premise here is that, I guess, if I tell you often enough how wonderful you are, you will make some rational decision that I deserve your you know, philanthropic output, and that isn't how human decision making works at all. Now, when Zawadi, the young patient you see there, says thank you to the donors, you helped a Tanzanian girl stand tall on her own 2 feet. I'm going to go backwards for a second here. Lower right, that's Zawadi when she was born with her feet pointed backwards. The missionary sisters called Gillette and said, "Can you do anything about it?" They said, "Put her on an airplane." She goes to St. Paul. She gets her feet turned around, and if you really want to read how gruesome that is, you can read the story. And now she's coming to the donors in a new way. She's not. In the old way, it would have said, "At Gillette, medical pioneer set the standards for turning feet around." Now it says, Zawadi says, "Thank you. You helped a Tanzanian girl stand tall on her own 2 feet." And instead of getting what they had been getting, which was $5,000 coming back in the mail, in gift envelopes, now they get $50,000 back in the mail between one issue of the newsletter and the next. And you can imagine their great surprise, great delight. And that was back, I think they made the switch over in 2007, 2008, and when I contacted them a couple of years ago to see if, you know, it was an anomaly, because it could have been, they said no, it continues at $50,000 to this day, as long as we don't start talking about ourselves again. One of the other things I wanted to cover today is your case for support. When you're coming to me asking for a donation for my help, you need to answer 3 questions. One of which is, why us? Well, this is the easy one for everybody, you know. What are we doing that is so amazing that the world and will fall, you know, needs it and loves it and will benefit from it, and so forth. So you get to talk about your stuff. I would recommend very strongly that you consider trying to get it down to 2 words and then build it back up to maybe 4 or 6 or 10, whatever you minimally need. But, you know, 50 words is not it is not focused enough. 2 words, clean water, for instance. That's focused. Now, it's not going to stay there, but see, the donors don't actually need to know very much in order to be inclined to want to support you. And often we kind of clutter it up, and so they don't understand us clearly, and that's why I recommend this 2-word exercise. Now, the second question you have to answer is, why now? Where is the urgency? We have a long line at every philanthropist's door asking for help. You know, is urgency part of your pitch, really? It can be, and it should be, because otherwise there's a tendency to put you on the "we'll get to it" pile, which is actually the "we'll never get to it" pile. you know, if you're standing on the coattails of a daily news cycle like the civil war in Syria, then you've got built-in urgency. Everybody is reminded of that constantly. Sometimes you have to bring this urgency to their attention. For instance, here is a couple of draft pages for a case for a capital campaign up in Alberta for a cancer center. And you have cancer. That is a diagnosis that 44 people will hear in Alberta today and tomorrow and the day after that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You're bringing to people's attention something that matters to them. Not you know, you could describe the work of a cancer center in 1,000 different ways, but what matters to me is when I hear this diagnosis, and I'm not saying if, I'm saying when I hear this diagnosis, I want the world's greatest cancer care to be right around the corner. We sometimes want the world to be the way we want the world to be, regardless of what the reality is. And here's something I want to bring to your attention, some research from the American Marketing Association. The sad child photo raises 50% more money than the happy child photo or the neutral child photo. And so you want to be aware that as a donor, I need to have my empathy awakened in order for me to care about what you're doing. And that's what the sad photo does. It opens up an empathy channel. The third question, last question you have to answer is, why should I, a stranger to you, care about your stuff? I have loads of reasons to give to thousands of causes, and you're coming into on it or trying to get on my radar. So, for instance, what you're looking at is the cover of a case for support, trying to raise, I think, about $100 million a year, and it's for an international HIV research initiative, and it's now lost 40% of its research and development money because all of that money was coming from government. So they are turning their attentions to these high net worth individuals and ultra high net worth individuals. And what do people at that level care about? Well, they actually care, because I interviewed them to find that question out, they care about getting the biggest bang for their buck. Basically, they have so much money that they could give that they want to see substantial impact from that. This is not a $25 gift. This is a $250 million gift, or a $25 million gift, or a $2.5 million gift. So what does that buy? What does that do? You know, what transformation does that buy? What kind of numbers does that buy? So for this particular campaign, which is to get an HIV vaccine out in the market, what we can promise them. Why would this matter to you, major donor? Because you can rewrite the life stories for tens of millions of people. And we chose evil here. You might be wondering, why in a scientific project would we have words like evil? We chose it because, first of all, scientists said it, which made it novel. But secondly, because the struggle between good and evil is the oldest story on earth. Therefore, it's very easy for people to understand. And that is a high value in communications, is making it easy for me to understand. Here's another way to make it easy for me to understand. This wonderful teaser that was written for an HBO series called The Normal Heart. To win a war, you have to start one. It turns out we like winning wars, not the kind necessarily in Iraq, which I guess we didn't win anyway eventually. But I'm not talking combat. I'm talking, I want to get into a fight that will make the world a better place. Now, this came out of some research by Dean Carlin down at Yale. He was studying the 2008 Obama campaign, and what he was wondering was, as an economist, why did millions, tens of millions of American families for the very first time give pretty substantial amounts, $100 to $250, to this presidential campaign? It was a unique phenomenon. It was aided, of course, by the Internet, but that wasn't the reason why they did it. What he concluded from his research was that they did it because they wanted to get into a fight and win. And that's what I recommend for all of you donors. Get the people who become your support, your tribe, your base. Get them into a fight that's worth winning. Here's the thing. This supports this. Just read this screen. Donors are staggeringly ignorant of the causes they support. That was said by Richard Radcliffe. He's interviewed over 17,000 donors personally, mostly in focus groups, to find out what their motivations were for making gifts. And this is a conclusion he came to. These are his words. But he did not mean this was a bad thing. He meant lucky us. We do not have to explain much in order for people to say, yep, that's a good fit for me. Yep, I believe in that. Yep, that expresses my values. They come to you, people come to you, anybody that's going to give you money comes to you already fully equipped with values, experiences, with things they regret, things that they're fearful about, things that anger them, desires, connections, etc., etc. What your job is as a communicator to donors, as a marketer to donors, is to somehow connect with the pre-existing stuff that's in my heart and in my head. And here's something that could help you do that. Jen Shang, she's a psychologist who specializes in giving behavior, and she isolated for the American public 9 adjectives which are generally used to describe a good person, somebody you'd like to live next to, somebody you'd like to work with. Here they are, and look at how many of these have to do with philanthropy: kind and caring, compassionate and helpful, fair if it's social justice, generous. Now, your communications to me as a prospective donor can be a mirror. You can hold this mirror up to me where I see myself as a kind and caring, compassionate, and helpful person. I cannot tell myself I am this. You tell me that I am this. But most charities don't talk that way. Most charities talk the way you see here, and I'm basing this on my 5 or whatever books I've written so far. I see lots of material, and what it all does is we did this amazing thing, we did that amazing thing, we got this great idea, we are amazing. Oh, by the way, if you happen to have sent in a check, thank you very much. You're up in the stands watching us play the game. We'll put your name on a list, and that's how we're going to honor you. What you're looking at is donor recognition, state of the art, America in 2014. You know, it's not good. It's not enough. It makes people think that all they are to you is an ATM machine spitting out cash. You know, you want to say this to charities: please stop staring at my wallet. You make me uncomfortable. Now, the donor-centered way to talk is almost the same, with a pivotal difference that the donor gets the credit and the donor goes first. So with your help, all these amazing things we were talking about happened. Just as important, without your help, they can't happen. They won't happen. You are responsible for them. Here's Ken Hackett giving a perfect donor-centered speech online. He introduces himself, does the polite thing, welcomes you, but then look at the language. Generosity of you, our donors, is one of our greatest blessings. Now, it's a faith-based charity, so they can use language like that. Your support gives us the resources we need to solve tough problems. Your compassion transforms lives. Every sentence in his opening is directly addressing the donor using the you word and saying the donor is the magic sauce here. Donors only want a few things from you. They want to feel good. They want to feel loved by you. They want to feel that they chose the right charity, that they're smart in having supported you. They want to feel needed. They want to win if there's a fight. They want to see their values in action, etc. They want to belong to something. They want to be part of a tribe. Okay. That's what I have to tell you today. That's the fill form. Get you started, no mistakes, and we put aside some time here for questions, so let's hear what you got to ask. Anybody else?
We're waiting on some questions to roll in right now, Tom.
Okay.
Actually, Tom, this is Kelly. I'll lead off with a question. So I have to say that now I have to rethink the entire way we're presenting our content on our website after this presentation. Do you typically, I mean, I guess, you know, probably most of us on the line, you know, our website is a tool to speak to a number of different sort of stakeholders, clients, potential donors, potential partners, etc. Is it best practice for a website to largely speak to one of those sort of stakeholder groups over the other? What would you suggest? Do you typically recommend using this this framework for website also? I mean, I saw what you did with plans, so.
Yeah, Kelly, you may want to, I'm going to have an echo unless you go off.
Okay, we're going off.
Okay, so now I'll answer Kelly's question, which was basically, it's a question you hear all the time because people realize after seeing this workshop that they're going to have to change the way they talk to the donor audience. And then the question is, okay, everybody comes in through the same front door, which is our home page, and there are many different audiences. Kelly called them stakeholders, which is, you know, the kind of jargon I'm trying to kill. Their audiences, their target audiences, think in marketing terms. And those target audiences all have tasks that they want to complete, for one thing, because the website is very much a clicker's medium. It's not a reader's medium. It's, I want to do things here. But the a primary audience, you have to be able to distinguish between what are your primary and what are your subordinate audiences. And I would say for any, if you're a social entrepreneur and you're looking for supporters, i.e. donors, tribe members, people that care about what you're doing, the vision and mission, then you have to create a place for them on the home page that is the equivalent of everything else that's on the home page. So there may be a place for people that want to get resources because they are a social entrepreneur, and then there's another thing for another group, but the target audience of donors is a very significant audience. Sometimes, you know, you see it. I just evaluated a group of about 12 different websites the other day, and it was funny to look at them because in groups you see problems, you see classes of problems that you might not actually notice from one single website. And the class of problem I saw was that they all had a donate button on the home page. So that was all they had. It didn't even use the word you at all. It didn't have any excitement. It didn't have any friendliness. It didn't have any feeling. It was just the word donate on a button. And it's like, ugh. So that's not much of an experience. I would, one of the charities I love to look at is Princeton University. Now, I say that quickly because I don't want you to think I go there just for higher ed. It's useful for all charitable work because Princeton knows really what they're doing. I've never seen a fundraising operation with that, the chops of Princeton. They have an annual giving rate, for instance, among their alumni that's off the charts. If you go to the Princeton homepage, you'll notice that most of the type is all the same. You know, it's basic Arial or something. And yet there's one piece of type that's different, and that piece of type says Giving to Princeton. It's on the home page, and it is equal but slightly better and more visible. And I think that kind of describes it, because one of the things I learned, I investigated why it was that Princeton was so good at fundraising, and they do something called, they introduce incoming freshmen to a concept called the Giving University. And they basically, you know, look around you, look at the people in this audience who are here on scholarship. Look at the great buildings that were all built by philanthropy. This is a university that depends heavily on your gifts, and you may not, get to the point where you can make those gifts until you're much older, but we want you to never lose sight of that reality. And that has created a sense that giving is actually a primary thing on that website rather than just tag along, oh, a donate button. So that's, most charities come absolutely nowhere near where they need to be in terms of making the donors feel important and needed. So, the room for error here. You're not going to overdo this ever, probably. Any other questions come in?
Yes, thanks. Okay, Tom, we have a question from Zach Mazzara. He says, we haven't done direct mail before. Would you recommend blind direct mail, say voters in Providence over 55?
Yeah, why not? I say that with a little hesitation only because direct mail is not an easy medium to master. You have to read at least one book, and I would recommend, if you only can read one book, read Mal Warwick's book. It covers both digital and physical direct mail appeals, and Mal is the and Mal's company, I shouldn't say it isn't necessarily just Mal anymore. He's got a big company out in Berkeley that he has kind of moved away from, but the company continues to do great things in fundraising. Yeah, see, let's look at what direct mail actually is, putting aside the fact that you need a few skills in order to do it, to write a piece that's going to be effective. Direct mail is how you get into the privacy of my home. And because direct mail lists can be very finely tuned, basically, if you think the NSA knows a lot about you, you should imagine what the direct mail industry knows about you, and it's huge. And so I can buy a list of, let's say, progressive households with no kids in the Providence area that already give to charity, already give to political causes, or of a certain age and education. And you do pay every time you add what are called a sort. In other words, a category of, I only want donors that are this kind. That costs you more money. So the most basic donor information is just street address, like zip code addresses or something like that. But the things that matter in direct mail, the biggest thing that matters is what's called the quality of the list. Are you sending it to the right people? If you're sending it to the right people, then your response should be, assuming everything else is done at a basically professional level, your response should be a decent response. Now, what are we talking? Acquisition, you send out 200 letters, you get one gift back. That's a successful day. Get out the champagne for an acquisition campaign. I think it can be a little stronger in local work because we have the advantage, really, of somebody feeling like it's their own backyard, and we all want to live in the best place on earth. So if you're a reform-minded movement, then you may get my attention if I am as well reform-minded. The second thing that's important in direct mail is the quality of the offer. So the first thing is the quality of the list. Are you sending it to the right people? Then there's the quality of the offer. And offer is merely, what are you trying to get me involved with? What's the, the offer could be, let's pretend, school graduation rates will go up. We're trying to improve the graduation rates at certain schools which are, quote-unquote, underperforming. They have a high school graduation rate of under 60% or something like that. You can, with your gift, we can do something about this problem, is your basic offer. Now, other offers can be more tangible. When you get from a national charity those silly self-sticking return address labels. What that is a type of offer too. It's a physical thing. It kicks in a psychological phenomenon called reciprocity, where if you give me something, my tendency is to give you something back, although it will be a nominal small gift. Yeah, local charities can do very well in direct mail. I saw the Steel Yard raise $50,000 in a few weeks. Just this was back a couple of years, with a brand new, a group of people on their mailing list who had never been solicited before. So, it can be done. Direct mail is not kind to the untrained, and getting zero response is very, very easy to do if you get a few things wrong. So, next question.
Yes, okay, so the next question comes from Delia Kovach from Urban Greens. She says, for pitches for potential donor, oh, sorry, no, that's not the one I wanted to read. For social enterprise businesses who are looking for investors, would you suggest the corporate communication model for investor communications?
What I would suggest is kill the mute yourself, Kelly. Get your hands on Jerry WEISSMAN's book, because what he's trying to do is educate people who are going in front of the toughest, most unforgiving, most cynical audiences in the world, which are Wall Street investors. And yet what you will see in there is that often what they are doing is trying to get you to kill the jargon, get me, the investor, to visualize what it is you're talking about. All the things that we talked about today quickly in this session, Jerry WEISSMAN will go into it in detail. I mean, one chapter alone will be worth the price of the book, because one chapter talks about 10 different ways you can pitch to a potential corporate investor. It's just, you got to go in a little deeper than we were able to go in today, but there's not a language for corporate that is especially, well, I take that back. There's stuff they care about that an individual investor does not care about. That's, if you looked at cause-related marketing, for instance, where a corporation is putting big bucks. Probably the silliest example I ever heard of this was Smith & Wesson issued a pink revolver in order to support breast cancer research. It can get pretty foolish, but the point of all of this is, for some corporations, is they want to actually build their brand through connection to a good cause. And, in that sense, what you would see probably initially, if you're a young organization without a track record, that they're not that interested in you because you can't bring to them what they need, which is some PR payoff. Anyway, another question?
Yes, okay, so the next question is from Gail Ehlers. What do you think of crowdfunding?
I didn't hear the last words, Kelly.
Gail is asking your opinion about launching a crowdfunding campaign.
Oh, crowdfunding. Okay, it's an alternative. I have no idea how it works, why it works, but I mean, that said, that's not derogatory. That's not saying don't do it. I'm just saying I don't know how to do it. It is such a small piece of the philanthropic pie that it's not something I need to concern myself with as far as my clients are concerned. So Kelly actually was thinking of crowdfunding SE Greenhouse, and so I hope tries to do that. I mean, no fundraising at a good, an adequate level is going to be easy. That's the first thing. There are no magic wands here. Maybe if you happen to room with the wealthy scion of a hugely philanthropic family, oh, well, you just got $10 million and you can go right ahead. Mostly that doesn't happen. So mostly you nickel and dime it out, and you go, you plod, and it takes you, the average for, if you're advising a nonprofit who's going to put in a traditional fundraising mechanism, you say, well, it's going to take you 5 years to get fully into the black. You probably see some black in year 3, but it's still going to be tenuous for a while. So sudden infusions of cash like crowdfunding can seem to promise. I don't know. Yeah, why not? Try it. Just, I have no idea what to say. Next question.
Okay, it's 2 o'clock. Are you willing to do a couple more questions, Tom, or?
Oh yeah, don't worry about that.
Okay. Okay, so this question came from Caroline Mayu. What are your recommendations for implementing your ideas about donor-centric materials for an organization that has a tight budget and needs to revamp basically everything?
Okay. I guess the first thing is, what's the most important thing we have to do? So we'll, prioritizing not just for time management, but for also what kind of communications you want to do for second and third. Very important. Your website is your public face, and so the website, I would say, is where you're going to have a chance, if you can drive enough people to it, to engage them in some kind of, first of all, maybe interactivity, like answer a poll. Interactivity has huge value in fundraising because it's actually one of the ways that you keep first-time donors and make them into second and third-time donors is through them doing more than just make a gift to you. It's also a way to collect information and build tribe. The first thing that I want to be able to do with a new charity is not necessarily give money. It's maybe find out more, or it's maybe, hang out with people, like-minded people. So I can remember down in Australia, there was an animal charity, I think it was Adelaide Rescue Mission or something like that, dogs and cats and abandoned animals. And they, on their website homepage, they gave you 2 choices, which was really neat. One choice, and it's funny, their donate buttons were all in the shape of paws. One choice was, I want to find out more about the rights of animals. And it was just, you press that and you get information. And that was a great way in, a sort of sub-step, a baby step toward becoming a full supporter, cash supporter of this organization. But what you did first is you showed your values, you showed what you were interested in as a prospect by, caring enough about animals to ask for that information. The other thing that was there, and it was equal in size, there was just these 2 buttons and a little story and a photo of a sad dog. The other button was, oh, I'd love to help Sarge today. I'm going to make a gift, and you click on that, and that takes you to the Donate landing page. Now, the Donate landing page is where a lot of the good stuff has to happen. Videos are very important online, but they have to be very brief. They don't have to be, the fancy pants production values do not have to be there, but they do have to tell the story. And I gave you a story formula today, the one with hero and enemy in it. So you should be able to come up with a script. Basically, most communications to donors are in terms of problem solution. And in other words, we have this very bad thing happening over here. With your help, we can provide a great solution over here. Would you be interested? And or would you be interested in learning more? Would you share us out to your Facebook group and other kinds of social media, broadening? Because I think one of the huge advantages these days that charities can have is that they can acquire a tribe pretty quickly as long as they're talking about things in the right way so that people want to be part of this. If you talk about it in jargon, you will not build that tribe. You talk about it in problem solution, little anecdotes, that's what builds tribe. Okay, next question.
Okay, Tom, we have several questions about sort of the pros and cons of online donor communications, like donor-centric newsletter versus printed hard mailed copies, and also sort of the role that you see maybe an online blog playing in fundraising if it was functioning in a donor-centric manner.
Okay, well, let me start with the blog. Yes, have a blog. That's very important. It's so personal. It has a personality. People want to engage with not just a great cause, but the people behind the great cause. You know, they're going to reach some proper assessments of you by reading a blog, which is much more informal, much more maybe in the trenches, out in the field, the problems we're solving, the problems we're not solving, for that matter. Authenticity in blogs is, I think, very important. And concision, of course. We are a hugely overwhelmed population, trying to ignore as much as possible, frankly, because it's just too much to take in. So being concise has high value, and good communications work these days. But let's go back. So the blog was one question, but then the other question, which I heard since 2003, that was the first year it came up, what's better, a digital newsletter, for instance, or a printed newsletter? And the answer is depends. You know, if you want to make money, print is going to outperform a digital newsletter by miles, not even on the same planet. If you're keeping me informed, keeping in touch, digital newsletter is good for that, and it is much less it has much less impact usually on the time and money of the organization too. So I would rather, the answer is a two-part answer. The first part is, do you want to raise money, or do you want to just stay in touch? If you just want to stay in touch, e-newsletter is fine. If you want to raise money, you've got to have a print newsletter going to your donors. And there's a formula for that print newsletter which will help you to maximize your donor response and donor income. That's my answer. What next question?
Okay, sorry. Okay, Tom, so this question comes from Chuck Holland. With only a few donors at first, how can you thank everyone and put in you-centered stories before you have many to tell?
If I'm hearing that right, you said with only a few donors at first, how do you pick up the phone and you try to call them all. So you give yourself that assignment. I'm going to call 5 donors today, and I'm going to thank them. And I'm not going to ask them for more money either. But I am going to thank them, and I'm going to just say, you know, we're trying to do some important things here. Can I answer any questions you have? I want to thank you for being one of our few supporters. Most charities don't have that many people supporting them, actually. It kind of surprised me when I first started working in fundraising that even a college that's been around for decades and decades might have less than a couple of thousand donors, even though they've graduated all those people over those years. A good size donor base can be 1,000 people. That would be people who had actually written out a check in the last, let's say, 18 months, not people on your mailing list, which can be many times larger. So, you know, it's just something you have to do. The more you thank donors, the more money they give you. So it's kind of a win-win on both sides. I don't know if I actually answered that one, Kelly. I don't remember the second half of his question.
No, I think you answered it. It was I think the question was really around how do you sort of make your stories donor-centric when you have very few donors that you...
I see, yeah. Let me just gloss that just a little bit. You know, I was talking about the problem-solution stories, the before and after stories, and that's kind of the stock and trade for a lot of charities, because they're charities that are meant to be healing charities. They deal with issues and problems, and they do something about those issues and problems. But if you are in the forward-looking, you haven't really, you know, you've got a great idea, you're doing righteous work, but you haven't actually been around very long or gotten too far down the road on your mission and vision. You just have to keep selling the vision. That's all. I mean, basically, charities often sell the promise to me, and I'm not too demanding. As long as you stay in touch with me and let me know what philanthropy is actually doing for good in the world, I'm happy. The number one thing that makes donors unhappy, surveys repeatedly say, is that, quote unquote, I have no idea what they did with my money. So does it have to be an anecdote or a personal story? No. But you do have to say, if you've decided to call your organization Save the Whales, every once in a while you have to go out and actually save a whale, and you have to tell me about that.
Well, great. I think we will end on the Save the Whale note. Tom, thank you so much. I mean, I'm pretty sure I can speak on behalf of everyone that participated. This was really enlightening, and I'm sure you have created very long to-do lists for most of us that were on this call. So thanks so much.